Travis Wayne Goodsell. I have to sneak in one more video for you guys before my internet service downgrades it so that I can no longer upload videos to my channels anymore. Tomorrow. Nelson has announced in the church news, and it's been that way for about a week now, that this year he's going to do a youth broadcast on the 15th of May. And that has some significant bearing that I need to sneak in before I'm silenced. There's Revelation chapter 12 verse 1, in which the Joseph Smith translation, there in the footnotes, follow the link and you can see the additions that were done, and moving of verse 5 to verse 3, which is there in the beginning of the Book of Mormon. Lehi's dream, he sees the heavens opened, and that's what he sees. He sees that star date. And so the Book of Mormon is therefore not literal history. I know it's difficult for people to understand because you didn't get an education, a degree, and publish in that particular field of study, because it doesn't exist. I had to create it at my university, and the guidance counselor helped with that. But nonetheless, it's right there from the Joseph Smith translation. Signs in heaven in likeness of things on the earth. It's not just a sign in the heavens for the latter days that we look for. It's the meaning behind them. And the meanings are contained in scriptural prophecies. And so there's a sign in the heavens, there's a scriptural prophecy, and then there's the actual event that's supposed to take place on the earth. And I've gone over that with you with lunar eclipses and the deaths of presidents of the church, indicating that God is pissed with the presidents of the church since Brigham Young. 19 July 1840, B. If you're afraid to look it up, to learn the truth, and continue to perpetuate the lie, it's on you. You cannot be saved in ignorance. Nelson and his wife did for the youth broadcast back in June 3rd, 2018, after becoming the new president of the church with the death of Monson, who, by the way, died from Revelation chapter 12 verse 4, stars falling from the tail of the dragon. I mean, those were a long time ago when I did those. There's a lot of stuff you are missing if you are brand new to my channel. I have been the only one covering all this. It is my education, and it is an exclusive education. No other Mormon knows this information. And so Amos 3:8, not Amos 3:7, but is in connection with Amos 3:8. Surely the Lord God will do nothing save he shall revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. It's mistranslated, but we all get the point. And then the lion hath roared, who can but prophesy? 21st of August, 2017. The first day of darkness of the latter days. To start it all off. And guess what? It's in the Book of Mormon. Not the great white lion. Mark, you dumbass. on my New York mission. Mark Augustine was my companion. He since sold me up the river because I allowed him to run the mission the way he wanted it to be run. If he wanted to do tracting, we did tracting. Whatever he wanted to do, we did it, and he was upset. He wanted me to take away his agency as a senior companion. Crybaby. Nonetheless, we had met with a family, a single mother, bunch of kids, which was common. Gave them the Book of Mormon, said we'll come back and follow up on what you read. And during the week, we met the oldest daughter. She was with her peers, and so it was the dumbest thing in the world for him to approach her in front of her peers to talk about the Book of Mormon. Stay away from underage people. Make sure the parents are present. Nonetheless, he thought he would ask her, so did you read the Book of Mormon? And she said yeah, and all her peers are looking at her and wanting to, what's this? These are two white boys who know you. And she said, yeah, I read it. And so did you find out if it was true? And yeah, the Spirit told me it was false. And her friends busted up laughing. And so then Mark, to cover up his shame and humiliation in front of you little girls, then asked her if she'd known about, get to the part about the Nephi and the great white lion. Way to go. So back in June 2018, June 3rd, we have a sign in the heavens on that very night. Jupiter, the hero of the scripture prophecies, 12:1, man born of the Virgin. He is the Christ of Mormons. And it frustrates me to no end that Mormons refuse to accept that Joseph Smith was not a Christian and that Jesus was not his Christ. And yeah, I know, it means the prophets are lying to us. Nelson, lying to us and forcing the name Jesus. I know exactly what it means. What did you think the Book of Mormon was talking about with the great and abominable church? Anybody who studies the Book of Mormon will come to the exact same conclusion. And if your spiritual witness is telling you something else, it's the wrong spiritual witness. You're listening to some other voice. So anyway, upon Monson's death, Monson's birthday, by the way, was 21 August. It's also the ancient Egyptian religious calendar New Year, which means they knew the start of the latter days as well, with the battle between Horus and his uncle Set to restore the throne of his murdered father Osiris by Set, his brother. Mars was at the top of the scales of judgment when Monson died, indicating that Mars is Nelson. Sign in the heavens, likeness of things on the earth. And so I've been following Mars. And so after Nelson became the president, on that youth Nazi Mormon Battalion creation of his, Mars is in conjunction with the moon at the amulet of the goat beast of Lucifer. I did videos in advance saying that he was going to declare something evil, and in retrospect, sure enough, grooming the children of the church. That's what it's called. It was horrific to listen to. His wife talked about how they were in Russia, and that the Russians are the lost 10 tribes, and then Nelson subsequently would talk about how the lost 10 tribes are going to come to Salt Lake City, to Zion, to replace those of us who are going to be dead or enslaved to the church. This is the great and abominable church, guys. What were you thinking was going to happen? So, that was the signs. You see a bunch of falling stars at the tail of the dragon, which was December 17th, 2017, there in Revelation chapter 12, verse 3. Because 3 got merged with 4 when 5 got moved to 3 in the Joseph Smith translation. And then notice Aries also has falling stars. That is important because of the pattern that I checked on yesterday or the day before. And that pattern is that Perry Packer Scott, when they died in 2015, all right there in a row, at the end of the Tetrad of 2014-2015, of which Monson came out and said, nope, this isn't the latter days, nothing to see here, move along. Again, I remind you, Amos chapter 3, verse 7 and 8. It was the forerunner sign in the heavens for Mormons, as all Mormons were wondering about. And the prophet of the church said, nope. And so he died in the exact same pattern as all the other presidents of the church since Brigham Young. And his was a big one because it also tied into Revelation chapter 12, and the particular lunar eclipse was historic. It had everything thrown in it, including the kitchen sink. And so, checking Perry Packer Scott, they all had falling stars in Aries. Aries is the sacrificial ram or lamb. Same word used anciently. And so Abraham sacrificing Isaac, they go to Utah, a messenger appears, which is Mercury, the messenger of the gods, and a ram appears to replace the sacrifice of Isaac. As the first part of the story we've gone over already for Sunday school lessons, the lamb was talked about first. The Lord will provide a lamb, and then a ram appears. Yeah, it's the same thing. That's what it's referring to. The date for that story, that prophecy, 8 April 4 CE. 600 years from the time Lehi left Jerusalem. It was over Russia. And it was in Aries. A total solar eclipse. And so Ezekiel 38 was being alluded to in the Book of Mormon for us. The battle of Gog and Magog, the children of Japheth, son of Noah, who got Europe and Russia as his designated place. And so the Battle of Gog and Magog, Russia against Ukraine for the latter days, Ezekiel 38. And Nelson goes and says, hey, I gave Putin money, supposedly for a temple. Again, the great and abominable church. And so, I also checked Hales, because he died separately, as we thought or supposed. No, it was right there in the beginning signs of the first year. And stars falling from Aries. So this year, the stars will begin to fall from Aries on the 14th of May. Nelson is doing his little thing with the youth again on the 15th, the second day of the falling stars in Aries. And Jupiter, as I indicated, actually no, the moon this time. The moon represents religion, the left eye of Horus, both eyes are Peter for seer in Egyptian. The right eye is for government and is the sun. And so the sun and Mercury are out of the way in Taurus. This is a religious sign in the heavens that we are witnessing here. The moon, for religion, is now the judge at the top of the scales of judgment. And you see, down by Akrab, at the end of the scales, is understood as the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The fall. And so you have the fall star with falling stars. You have Saturn, the father of Jupiter, at the tail of the goat beast. Stars fall from the tail of the goat beast. Revelation 12 again. The Aquarids have been following Mars since they first appeared. He has passed through the waters. I guess he didn't get drowned in the flood of the Exodus, but the falling stars are still there with him as he's now entering into Pisces. He will eventually come in direct conjunction with Jupiter. I haven't done a check to see if he actually eclipses Jupiter. But from the distance, it looks like it does. But when you zoom in closely, any distance is manifest. And then you have Venus, also in Pisces. They're all on the back of Pegasus, the white horse of Revelation chapter 19, which that date, the angel standing in the sun, which is the sun riding the white horse, Amen. John even names him. Name no man knows. Let me get the exact quote for you. His eyes were a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. Remember Melchizedek? The name used to avoid the too frequent repetition of Amen. That is the Egyptian sun god at noonday, the highest, most high sun. It's all over scriptures. It was Constantine who turned Jesus into literal history. And again, scriptures are apocalyptic literature like the book of Revelation, because they are not literal history. And so, guess what? We're also in a tetrad. A tetrad for the latter days. The scriptural prophecy is the full one. Sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven. All three mean tetrad. This is in retrospect. I didn't know it until the second one around, when I went, oh, the suns are also a part of the lunar tetrad. I'm the one who figured that one out. You've probably heard about the tetrads and how they're lunar eclipses. There are solar eclipses in connection with those, and stars falling from heaven. I'm the one who figured that one out. That's what the scriptures mean when the general category of sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven mean. They're actually a specific sign of tetrad, with solar, lunar, and falling stars all together. And so, as the forerunner had 3 apostles, which created a change in the leadership of the 12, setting it up for the fall of Monson, we're now waiting for the scriptural fulfillment of the fall of the great and abominable church. And there they are, stalking Mars. There they are at the tree of knowledge of good and evil. There's the moon as the judge. There's the falling stars in the sacrificial ram-lamb constellation. I wanted to get that out there. It's coming. And that's the one indicator I've been trying to find as a scientist. Because the world, even philosophers, they can't explain soundly the existence of God. And so you've probably heard of the death of God, but you run tests, and the tests are given to us to test Revelation chapter 12 verse 1 in the Joseph Smith translation. Lunar eclipses for the deaths of the presidents of the church. Do it with any other religious leader and you'll come up blank. You run tests for confirmation or denial. Every other church, including the Catholics with the Pope, denied. It's not them. They are not the great and abominable church. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from Brigham Young confirmed time after time after time after time after time after time. And so it is next to impossible that with all these confirmations, establishing it as a pattern, a fact, that Nelson will get away with it? Good luck with that, Nelson. But it shows that there is a deity out there, and it shows he's pissed with this church. And all Mormons need to fear, because Mormons are now getting targeted because they're being attached and associated with criminal murderers. And so people around the world who are aware of this are now targeting Mormons because they're Mormon. Murderous criminals. So, you still want to be Mormon, do you?